To order. This is a continuation. I just need the date. Ano ba yung last date natin?
March 18, sir.
Yes, this is a continuation of our March 18, 2021 hearing. So our agenda will cover the subject matter of our agenda for this afternoon will cover the same one of these subject matters taken up during that March 2021 hearing. So again, for the record, the chairman thanks Senators Amy Marcos, Francis Tolentino, and Sherwin Gatchalian for joining me in today's hearing. So now, may I ask the committee secretary, Ms. Sukandao, to now acknowledge for the record the resource persons who are present this afternoon. Take it away, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honors. Good afternoon po, Mr. Chair and all our honorable senators. For this afternoon's public hearing, we have as our resource persons from the Department of Foreign Affairs, we have Executive Director Maria Alni Gambol, Office of Consular Affairs. We have Mr. Jabar Adyong, also from the Office of Consular Affairs. Ms. Marie Chris Chieng, from the Passport Division. We have Mr. Christopher Patrick Aro from the Department Legislative Liaison Unit. Is the new Executive Director. And from the DOJ, or the Department of Justice, we have Attorney Carla Kalugay, the State Counsel. From the Department of Social Welfare and Development, we have Undersecretary Luz Beminda Ilagan, Director Maria Rosario Quaresma from the International Social Services Office. From the Department of Labor and Employment, we have Attorney John Rio Bautista, Labor Attaché from the International Labor Affairs Bureau. And then we have Mr. Jesus Emmanuel Samonte, also from the International Labor Affairs Bureau. And Attorney Zenia Talahiban Hiponia from the Legal Service, with Attorney April Don Villamor, also from the Legal Service of DOLE. From the Commission on Human Rights, we have Attorney Jomaher Asalan from the Policy Advisory Office. We have invited the Bureau of Immigration, but they have not confirmed for today, but we're still waiting for their presence. And we have from the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, Attorney LJ Bernardo from the Bureau of Legal Affairs. From the Philippine Statistics Authority, we have Ms. Marisa Grande and Attorney May and Carnina Gawiran from the Legal Service. We also have Mr. Rodelio Dingle de la Fuente from the Civil Registration Service. From the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, we have Attorney Paul Listones with Attorney Geraldine Mendez. From the National Commission on Senior Citizens, we have Attorney Franklin Quijano. And also, to be monitoring us this afternoon, from the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR, Philippines, we have Ms. Ariel Ann Gonzalez. We have also invited the Philippine Travel Agencies Association, but we're still waiting for them to get on board, Your Honor. That's all for now, Your Honors. Thank you.
Comsec, is it UNHCR which submitted a parang some sort of a position paper or inputs? Sila
That's
po
right,
yun?
sir. Sila po. Sila po.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, ladies and gentlemen, so first of all, thank you for your presence. This afternoon, we'll be taking up bills connected with the passport system in the Philippines. Specifically, Senate Bill number 11997, Lifetime Passports for Senior Citizens Act. That is the short name of the bill, filed by Senator Lapid. And then there is also a bill, Senate Bill number 2264, filed by this representation, which we shall refer to as the Philippine Passport Act of 2021. And then we will also discuss House Bill number 8513, the Philippine Passport Act. The title is, because this has been passed by the House of Representatives, an act providing for a new passport law, repealing for the purpose Republic Act number 8239, otherwise known as the Philippine Passport Act of 1996. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the 1987 Constitution, Article 3, Section 6, provides the liberty of abode and of changing the same within the limits prescribed by law shall not be impaired except upon lawful order of the court. Neither shall the right to travel be impaired except in the interest of national security, public safety, or public health as may be provided by law. In 1996, Congress enacted Republic Act number 8239, the Philippine Passport Act of 1996. So let us be aware of the year it was enacted. Two important things were highlighted by the 1996 Passport Act. The people's constitutional right to travel is inviolable, and the right to travel may be impaired only when national security, public safety, or public health requires. It has been 25 years since the passage of RA 8239. The only amendment that was done to it was when RA 10928 was signed by the President on August 2, 2017, and this was the law which extended the validity of passports to 10 years. As I have explained in the explanatory note of my bill, the urgency of enacting an updated, more responsive law is underscored by both the opportunities and challenges presented by advances in identity authentication and management on the global front and institutional shift to digital solutions. These legislative proposals before us today strengthens the integrity of the passport application procedure through provisions that align the Philippines with its civil aviation commitments under international law. More importantly, these measures will also democratize the international travel process so as to unburden the public. So thank you for giving me time for my opening statement. Now I will now give time to my colleagues, the members of the committee, if they want to make a statement, an opening statement. Senator Amy?
Oh, okay, yes. I was unable to join the previous hearing, but I obtained the transcript, and I just like to be updated on the standards of ICAO, or International Civil Aviation Organization, regarding the validity of passports. Because if the committee hypothetically determines to give senior citizens a 40-year validity, would that still be in conflict with the ICAO? Because from my understanding, the guidelines only mention that the passport must have an expiry date, any expiry date. So, as illustrated in the 8th edition provided of document 9303. And then I also heard that the Spanish passports for citizens over 70 years old do not expire. Payag naman daw yung ICAO. So maybe the DFA and the other experts could quickly address that.
Yes, we will have to address that issue once and for all this afternoon. At siguro DFA will lead the discussion and some other experts in the field. So, Senator Tolentino, thank you, Senator Amy, for your statement. Senator Tol, if you have an opening statement to make.
No opening statement, Mr. Chairman. I will just ask questions later.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian?
No opening statement.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, so thank you. Let us now go to the meat, directly to the meat of our hearing. Okay, number one, let us take up the Senator Lapid bill, which seeks to grant lifetime validity of Philippine passports to senior citizens. Sige, may we get the final position of the DFA on this issue, being familiar with all of our international agreements. May we hear from the DFA? Sino kaya?
Good afternoon,
Ms.
Mr. Chair.
Gambol? Is it Ms. Gambol?
Director
Yes, sir.
Gambo, sir.
Yes, Director Gambol, go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon to the members of the committee. The Department of Foreign Affairs would like to reiterate our position that the grant of a lifetime validity for passports is not in keeping with the standards and recommended practices of ICAO. The standard and recommended practice is that the passport should be valid for no more than 10 years. In keeping with the possible changes in the physical appearance of the person, so that, for example, if a passport was issued as suggested by the good Senator Marcos for 40 years, so the person will then probably have a problem at the borders because beyond the 10th year, there may be some changes in the physical appearance of the person, and therefore the border guard might believe or might think that this is not the same person who is presenting the travel document to them. This is one of the main consideration of ICAO for putting forth that particular recommended practice and standard in Annex 9 of the Convention for International Travel. Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that input, ma'am. But the bill of Senator Lapid wants to benefit only senior citizens. Ano? So do we still have that danger that they will change in their physical appearance?
Sir, as we have pointed out po na it will be going against the standards and recommended practices. So that
Yes,
means
okay.
they will not be accepted, sir, if they have a travel document that does not follow the specifications of document 9303. So instead, sir, of benefiting our senior citizens, they may end up waiting for far longer at the border gates or at the entry points of foreign countries.
Okay. Do we have information about the experience of the Spanish citizens who availed of their longer passport validity? Sila na-hassle ba din sila? Do we have information about that?
Sir, we have already researched this before, and the Spanish government does not issue lifetime validity for their senior citizens. They follow the 10-year valid maximum validity passport.
So they have no concession with for their senior citizens or above 70 years old? Walang ganon?
Wala po, sir.
Oh,
There
okay,
is no country, sir, that issues a passport beyond 10 years po.
Senator Marcos, you want to react?
Yes, kasi yung guidelines ng ICAO only makes mention that it should have an expiry date. It does not establish a maximum of 10 years. So, can we exceed 10 years? Theoretically lang.
Mr. Chair, we cannot po. We cannot po because all of the systems in place po in all border points have to follow po kung ano yung recommended practice and standards ng ICAO. So the passports, all types of travel document, they cannot exceed po yung 10-year.
I see. So we were misinformed about the Spanish passports. It's 10 years maximum regardless.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Madam Senator, they previously tried to issue that. They did issue that in the past, but because of the problems encountered, they stopped doing po. They stopped issuing this kind of passport.
I see. Okay, so it looks like we will be in violation, Mr. Chair. So I was wondering about also the issuance of emergency passports, but I suppose that's in a later bill.
Yes, ma'am. It's in the two bills about the entire passport system. So okay, so siguro ganun na lang because the intention is really to make travel or securing a passport more convenient for our senior citizens. But if the end result is international travel would become more of a hassle and inconvenience for them. So wag na lang, no? But at least we tried, no? We pursued the idea. Yes, Senator Amy?
Yes, just very quickly lang po. The reason I bring up the notion of emergency passports po is because for the renewal of passports, for those allowed to use courtesy lanes, like the senior citizens, is it still on an appointment basis? Kasi ang balita ko, punong-puno na yung appointment hanggang next year. Siguro pwede na lang natin, as a concession to our senior citizens who are so hassled by technology and this endless queue lining, is there a possibility of expanding the courtesy lanes, particularly for our senior citizens during this time of COVID? Siguro yun na lang ang magagawa natin given the ICAO standards.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Madam Senator, of course, we do give consideration po for our senior citizens, which is why we have the courtesy lane for them. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we have had to stop allowing walk-in applicants for passport processing because we have had to limit and always be aware of how many people are going into our consular offices at any given point in time, which is why we have instituted a strictly by appointment only passport processing basis. And later on po, I have a presentation for the committee. If the committee will indulge me, then I will talk about the measures that we have put in place po so that our senior citizens and the rest of our citizens will be able to avail of a passport appointment.
Kasi Mr. Chair at saka kay Ms. Gambol, I checked the DFA website for online appointments. Punong-puno na until almost February of next year. Paano naman yung mga senior citizens natin? At mukhang hindi na emergency yan kung mag-iintay ka ng napakaraming buwan. Perhaps in the budget also we can consider additional automation in the passport renewals, particularly, which should be a very ministerial matter aside from the updating of photographs and other data. What do you think po, Ms. Gamble? Is it true that it's that there are no openings for mere renewals until first quarter next year?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam Senator. The appointment system po for courtesy lane in our passport appointment website is full, but our alternative po is our email system, which is oka.cl@dfa.gov.ph, and through that, of course, we prioritize po yung ating mga senior citizens and all those who are entitled under the law and yung binibigyan po namin ng special privilege to access the courtesy lane. So that is, aside from our senior citizens, yun pong ating persons with disability, yun pong ating solo parents, children who are age 7 and below, and pregnant women po. So sila po, but of course, yun pong seniors and the PWDs po, sila po ang may priority for that facility po, Madam Senator.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. Ma'am, Ms. Gamble, please repeat slowly the email address para talagang yung mga nakasubaybay sa atin they will be able to write this down. Sige, ma'am.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair. It's OCA, that's OCA, .cl@dfa.gov.ph.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. So ganito na lang. When we tackle now the bills on the entire passport system, we will insert what benefits we can think of for the senior citizens which do not touch on the period of validity of the passport. Yan na lang siguro. Ganun na lang ating compromise. Mag-isip pa tayo. Yung mga other conveniences na pwedeng ibigay, maybe some waiver of documents, mga ganon, di ba? So Kasi by the time senior citizen ka na, I think you have already established your identity. Ano Senator Amy, totoo ba? Sorry ikaw na tanong ko, sorry.
Oo, talaga naman. There are no gentlemen in this committee. But nevertheless, having said that, that's correct. Yun nga, nag-iiba na lang yung itsura at yung health concerns.
Sige, so siguro we can leave that ano bang what the bill we can now leave any other ComSec, meron pa kayang other resource persons or experts who can discuss Senate Bill number 1197, lifetime validity of senior citizens passports? Anybody else who wants to contribute? Sino po? Please identify yourself. Ma'am,
Mr.
sige,
Chair.
yes ma'am, ma'am Luz Biminda Milagan, yes ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to Senator Amy, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Tolentino, and other members of the committee. Now, this is the position of the DSWD with regard that particular proposal. To contribute to the bill's enhancement, the DSWD respectfully recommends the creation of a provision which shall contain a system to validate that the bearer of the passport is still alive. So that is what we would like to propose, Mr. Chair. And we believe also that once this bill is enacted into a law, the senior citizens, especially those who live far away from the Department of Foreign Affairs consular offices, may be relieved from the rigorous process of passport renewal. So that is our official position, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we can harmonize that with the concern of the DFA. Di ba merong parang senior citizens? What is the official office of Attorney Quijano? Is he present, Attorney Quijano? Attorney Franklin Quijano?
Attorney Franklin Quijano, sir, has confirmed from the National Commission on Senior Citizens. This is a new officer, I believe.
He's not here?
We have Mr. Edwin Espejo.
Sige, Mr. Espejo, just in case, yes, Mr. Espejo, I can see you pala. Just in case you have anything to contribute po, your office.
Thank you. I am a last minute replacement, and as you have said, this was the last meeting was in March, so I was only appointed January 27. I took my oath of office in February 1. So we have not tackled the said proposal. In fact, it already reached my email Friday last week. So the commission has not taken a stand on the issue. So I'm here to listen for.
Sir,
But,
what is your position? Bagong agency na. Are you vice
I am a
chairman?
commissioner. I am a commissioner.
Sige. Sir, ganito na lang, sir. Ganito. Because I think we will just insert, katulad sabi ko, whatever concessions we can give to senior citizens in the main passport law. So if you can come up with some proposals, so may time pa tayo to accommodate, pero can you make it as soon as possible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll do that, sir.
Okay,
We'll
so
do that, sir.
so ganun na lang po. So now we will close our discussion on Senate Bill number 1197 and let us move on, no? And jointly discuss, sabay na natin i-discuss ito. Senate Bill number 2264, the Philippine Passport Act of 2021, as well as House Bill number 8513, all with the short name also Philippine Passport Act. So DFA will make a presentation. Tama po ba yung ComSec? Is the
Yes,
DFA
sir.
ready?
Yes, sir. They have a presentation, sir. Ma'am Gamble.
Ma'am Gamble again, yes. Director Gamble, kayo po ulit. I recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I can have the presentation up, please. Thank you. Okay. We'd like to provide the committee with a brief snapshot of where we are now in terms of our passport services, what we are doing to further improve on our services, and our concerns with regards to these passport services. And we thank Senator Marcos for mentioning the budget because meron nga po itong kinalaman tungkol sa aming budget for the passport services. Okay, next slide please. Next slide. Can we go to slide number 2? Can I request my colleague from DLLU to click the slideshow, please, and then go to slide number 2. Sorry,
Comsec,
Mr. Chair,
let us, okay, thank you.
number 2, please. Slide number 2. So for slide number 2, we have a snapshot of our. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. Can we go back to slide number 2? I think there's a.
I was
Mr.
about
Chair,
to,
can you hear me? Sorry.
no, I can hear you, but I was about to tell the COMSEC to surrender control to you.
Sir, it's them
Yeah, to
controlling,
DLLU.
sir. It's them
Con-
controlling. Opo.
Okay. Okay. Thank you po,
DF
Comsec. Yeah, DLLU, can we please move the slide to the second slide and maybe convert it to slideshow mode? Okay, there we go. So wala yung ating slideshow. Okay, so we apologize for the committee for the technical difficulties we are encountering. Anyway, let me just siguro I'll do the narration first. In 2018 and 2019, we saw an increased demand for passport services, which resulted in us issuing more than 4 million passports for these 2 years. However, when the pandemic started in March 2020, it also greatly affected our passport issuances so that at the end of the year, we were only able to issue a little over 1.7 million passports. So that is more than 50% decrease in our passport issuances. And this is mainly because of the fact that our passport offices, our consular offices have had to close down for about 3 months. And then at the same time, due to the protocols and guidelines issued by the IATF, we have had to limit the number of people that can access our services, and at the same time, limit the number of our personnel who can report on site and provide services to our people. For this year, as of the second quarter of 2021, we have only been able to issue about over 800,000 passports. So for the first 2 quarters between 2020 and 2021, there is only a very slight difference. The fact that the 2020 first quarter had a higher issuance rate is because at that time, the first 2 months of the year were not affected by the pandemic. But by March, we were already affected, and more than half of our appointments at that time, starting from the 3rd week of March, were no shows because of fears of the pandemic. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, we go to the issuances of other travel documents, like travel documents issued by our Foreign Service posts overseas. Travel documents are issued whenever a Filipino loses his passport or his passport expires and he has to travel back to the Philippines. So thus we have to issue him a travel document. Or in cases where a person, a Filipino, is unable to use his passport as per the orders of the foreign authorities where they are residing, and they are subjected to deportation proceedings. So in this case, we will have to issue a travel document to this person. Under our current travel document regime, a Filipino can only go back to the Philippines using this travel document. So now, for those Filipinos who are traveling overseas and who lose their passport, they have no other recourse but to curtail their travel and return to the Philippines with the travel document. So this happens a lot, and if you can look at the table, the issuances usually for Asia Pacific, for Europe, for US, South America, Canada, Australia, Pacific. These are mostly passports, passport holders who lose their passports and are therefore issued travel documents in order for them to return to the Philippines. For the Middle East, majority of these issuances are for people who are to be repatriated quickly back to the Philippines. Next slide, please. So aside from passports and travel documents for Filipinos, we also issue machine-readable convention travel documents for refugees and stateless persons recognized by the Philippine government through the Department of Justice. So as you can see, we do not really issue a lot of these documents, but still we do have a lot of refugees and recognized stateless persons in the Philippines. And under our obligations in the two treaties for these two categories of persons of concern, we have to issue them a travel document so that they can also exert their right to travel. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now we go to the numbers of our senior citizens who access our courtesy lane. In 2018, we had a total of 39,704. In 2019, 26,092. In 2020, much less, of course, because of the pandemic. And then at 6,313. And up to the first half of 2021, we had 1,054 senior citizens availing of our courtesy lane. Okay, and with regards to the discount in the provision of House Bill 8513 and Senate Bill 2264, we made like a sample computation with the full payment for seniors vis-a-vis the 50% discount in the provision of those two bills. So there is a big difference. But in the case of the DFA, there is a 10-year multi-year obligational authority which provides us with the budget for the production of passports up to the year 2026, if I remember correctly. So this will not affect us because of the MAYOA, but I'm sure DBM and the Bureau of Treasury may have some concerns over this provision. Next slide, please. Okay. Now we now go to the enhancements that we have put in place to improve further our delivery of passport services. So the first one we did was the online appointment system via www.passport.gov.ph and the integration of the e-payment module within the appointment system itself. We did this in 2017 and 2018. So before, we had a problem with people setting appointments but not showing up. and we had a show-up rate of about 45%, 47% before the e-payments module was introduced. But after we introduced e-payments, the show-up rate went up to 97%. We have also integrated, in view of the pandemic, we integrated an optional courier delivery service wherein the passport applicant can already order courier delivery for his or her passport within the appointment system itself. Next slide, please. Okay, can we move to the next slide? And this is about our passport on wheels. This is the mobile passport service arm of the DFA, which serves requesting parties and can accommodate the minimum requirements for the conduct of passport on wheels activities based on our guidelines. So again, our passport on wheels activities was also severely affected by the pandemic, where in the past, we were able to conduct 266 POW activities in 2018, for example, and 162 in 2019. But from 2020 and up to this year, we are only able to grant very few passport on wheels activities, and this is usually for the benefit of senior citizens or those who are too ill to come to the consular services and require the passport in order to avail of medical treatment overseas. Next slide, please. Our next enhancement is the establishment of Philippine Passport Renewal Centers. So the first passport renewal centers were established in the United Arab Emirates in 2019 in Dubai and in 2020 in Abu Dhabi, followed by the passport renewal centers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in Riyadh, Al Khobar, and Jeddah. So the establishments of these parks also help in alleviating the demand for passports on our embassies and consulates in these areas. These passport renewal centers are only optional passport sites. Our citizens in these countries can still avail of passport renewal from our Philippine Embassy in Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, as well as from our Consulate General in Dubai and in Jeddah. So we are also planning to offer or open more park locations in Europe, in the US, in the Middle East, where there is still a very large demand also for passport appointments, in Africa and other parts of Asia. We are also going to work with another service provider. So our first service provider is with VFS Global, and now we will be opening parks under BLS International, and we are looking at opening the first passport renewal center under BLS in Doha, Qatar. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to show you some photos of the passport renewal centers that we have in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, our next enhancement is our global online appointment system, wherein our foreign service posts are also offering passport appointments through our passport.gov.ph appointment site. This mirrors the appointment system currently used in the Philippines, and it was initially launched in our Philippine Consulate General in Calgary in October 2020. Now, the online appointment system for our overseas posts is currently being used in the following foreign service posts: in Doha, in Frankfurt, in Hong Kong, in LA, Ankara, Budapest, Dhaka, Kuwait, Manama, Mexico, Nagoya, Nairobi, Phnom Penh, Pretoria, Tel Aviv, Yangon, Toronto, and Tripoli. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, to address the high demand for passport appointments in the Philippines, we have recently opened temporary off-site passport service sites where a maximum of 500 applicants per site are to be served daily from Mondays to Saturdays. As a result, a total of 177,500 appointments were made available until the end of September. And we plan to extend these sites until the end of December 2021. So that's another additional 170,000 plus appointments. So these sites are in SM Mall of Asia, SM North EDSA, SM Aura, Robinson's Place Las Piñas, and Robinson's Magnolia. At the same time, we also offered an off-site location for our courtesy lane applicants, and this is in Ayala Glorieta 3 Mall at the 3rd floor. We also plan to open more temporary off-site passport service sites outside of Metro Manila, particularly in Cebu and in Davao and in Laguna. And we are also considering opening more temporary off-site passport services venues within Metro Manila itself. Okay, next slide. Okay, so next year, through the assistance of our colleagues in Congress, our representatives in Congress, the following consular offices are proposed to be opened in 2022. So that's the consular office in Antique, the consular office in Olongapo, the consular office in Pagadian, and the consular office of Kidapawan. For Kidapawan and Antique, the discussions for the agreement with the local government units are ongoing, and we hope to be able to complete the process, and for the LGU to complete the construction of the site where the consular offices will be established, hopefully by the 3rd quarter of this year. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so last, for the enhancement, we are proposing the issuance of a 3rd generation e-passport booklet and system. And we thank the good Senator Marcos for allowing us to be able to segue into this. When the 10-year validity was introduced in 2018, the department really planned to have a new booklet to go along with it, so that we are assured of the durability of the passport, particularly the page where our biographical details can be found. So aside from ensuring the durability, we want to make sure that we are able to put in place upgraded security features as per the standards and recommended practice of ICAO. And also to coincide with the implementation of the PhilSys use cases, which may allow no appearance passport renewals, especially for senior citizens with existing 2nd generation e-passports. And the DFA is preparing new projections with the view of reviewing the MAYOA and working with DBM in revising the budget and cost for passport production. Okay, and for my last slide, okay. We have been making representations with Congress with regards to our pending balance to our printing partner, Apo Production Unit. Because of the demand for passports in 2018 and 2019, we overshot the projection for passport issuance, and we incurred an obligation to Apo, which were not covered by the MAYOA at that time. So as of today, we still have an obligation of an unpaid obligation to Apo of 388 million. And this is one of the reasons also why we have requested Congress to consider changing the provision regarding our ability to collect fees that will that will be put forward to our passport revolving fund in order for us, in order for the DFA to cover any such obligations in the future. Right now, we are still looking for ways to cover this obligation under the PRF and continuous representations with Congress. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That is all for my presentation.
Senator Marcos, yes.
Yes, napasok tayo, Chair, sa usapin ng budget. So may I request na lang from DFA, magkano ba talaga hinihingi nila? Kasi unang-una, yung passport on wheels, the limitation is always the lack of budget, but it's a huge help for us in Ilocos Norte and other places where there are no DFA offices. Perhaps we can expand that program because that will address the issue also of seniors seeking medical treatment. Tapos yung passport printer, yung utang ninyo na 388 million, noted. At saka yung, ano ba yun, yung passport record book, yung accompanying the passport. Magkano rin ba yung budget doon para i-tot up na natin at ipasa na kay Senator Angara at pati sa House of Representatives?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam Senator. We will take note of that, ma'am, and we will prepare po the budget and further information. Salamat po.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just want to thank DFA because coincidentally yesterday I renewed my passport. So I was actually at DFA to renew my passport. But that was a renewal, and I'm actually a beneficiary of that 10-year extension or 10-year validity because before it was really too short. But I just want to ask DFA because this came to my mind yesterday. Mine is a renewal, and I have my fingerprints already there. And obviously, you can now take pictures through webcam and all that. How come I still need to go to DFA and renew? Where in fact, everything can be done naman now online. In fact, if you open a digital bank account now, whether through GCash to PayMaya or to other online wallet, you don't need to go to their offices. In fact, you can just open a digital wallet through talking to a parang an account officer through virtual interviews. No? So they will still interview you to validate if you're indeed a real person, but everything is done online. So my point is, this type of technology is being practiced already in the fintech world, in the financial technology world. How come in the renewal of passports we cannot do that? Because it will definitely decongest a lot of our facilities. Yesterday, when I went to the DFA office, ang daming upuan. I can just imagine the amount of traffic that goes in the building. So my question is, Mr. Chair, is how come DFA is not practicing this type of virtual renewal? Because all of our information naman is there. And I understand earlier from Senator Aimee that the reason why we cannot have lifetime passport because nag-iiba raw yung itsura natin. No? Granted, that happens, but the other information naman is constant, no? Like your fingerprints. Your fingerprints don't change throughout your life. No? So how come we cannot do virtual renewal so that we can decongest foot traffic? And that's addressed, Chairman, to Ms. Gamble.
Ms. Gamble, are you still with us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much to Senator Gatchalian. Yes, your concern is very welcome, sir, and we also are considering that. But right now, what is hampering us from doing so is number one, yun pong provisions under the Passport Act, where a person has to physically present himself to the consular office in order to process his or her passport application. The second one, sir, is technological, because the current agreement we have with Apple, which started in 2016 and will end in 2026, we cannot go beyond what is in the agreement, sir, and what is budgeted to us under the MAYOA. So, which is why we are proposing the third generation e-passport, and with the help of Congress, through the grant of an additional budget for this project, this will allow us to transition to the newer technologies, and especially with PhilSys coming up with its various use cases, which includes po the passports and especially sa passport renewals po. Yes, tama po kayo doon na with today's technology, it should be easy for a person to submit a passport application without coming to the passport site or the consular office. Kung passport renewal na po siya, since meron na po siyang record. But of course, for the new applicants and for the children, we believe that we should still require them to be present at the consular office to check, of course, that this person is owns the identity being presented for issuance of a passport. But yes, sir, we are very much we welcome po the any support from Congress with regards to improving our passport services further. Thank you po, Senator Gatchalian and Mr. Chair.
I think that's precisely what our chair proposed in SB 2264 to allow virtual tama po ba, Chair?
Section 6. Yeah.
Yeah, to allow virtual renewals to take advantage of the use of technology. And we've learned so many things in the pandemic, one of which is to use technology in all fronts, whether it's buying goods, whether it's opening a bank account, whether it's going to school or working from home. I think technology admittedly has no limits, and that should be applied to passport renewals. And I think that's precisely the proposal of our good chair. And just to add to that, to the DFA, I don't think technology is the problem. And if it's funding is the problem, then we can work together to fund that. But that will give a lot of convenience to our constituents. And I think the main point of Senator Lapid's proposal, to give lifetime passport to senior citizens, is to give that kind of convenience to our senior citizens so that they don't go back and forth. It's very difficult for senior citizens, especially those who are not mobile anymore. So in replacement, if that lifetime is not possible, let us make it convenient for our senior citizens and convenient to all. Actually, not only for senior citizens, but convenient to all. So that's my suggestion to DFA, and we're here to work on the budget because kung budget lang naman we can work together to make that happen because again, technology should not be a barrier anymore.
I'll just pursue the point of Senator Gatchalian before I recognize Senator Tolentino. Director Gambol, the passports we have now are what we call second generation passports. Yan po yon.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's what. If you DFA, please take a look at Section 6, Paragraph 4 of Senate Bill Number 2264, because we are precisely extending the benefit of non-appearance when you are renewing a second generation passport. But per the literal terms of my bill, only for those who are 65 years old and above. Pero if we can do it for them, sabi nga ni Senator Gatchalian, through technology, can we do it for all? Theoretically muna, ma'am. Theoretically, I'm DFA.
Sir, kaya po yan. We've already consulted our printing partner. Basta po second generation passport po yung hawak nung tao, then the no appearance passport renewal can be done. If you help us, sir, with the passage po sana of the third generation e-passport project, so that can come to pass po.
Okay, but what do people hold now? Second generation na.
Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Director Gambol, what do people have now? Second generation passports na, di ba? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
So-
We already have the second generation passports, but there are still some people, sir, who renew older passports, especially po yung mga dual citizens. Kumbaga, now they realize that they need passports. So,
Sige.
yun po ang ano.
Okay. Ngayon you mentioned about the third generation passport. So, do we need to specifically define that in the bill? Kasi now is our time to do it. If we need to improve the bill and mention specifically the characteristics of a third generation passport?
No, sir. We don't need to specify that kasi that would limit po yung bill. That is something that we can do ourselves, and we actually have it in the drawing board. It's been going to many iterations na. And what we need to do is to have it approved by the Office of the President po. And of course, get the necessary budget for it. Pero malaking tulong po, sir, yung maipasa po natin yung bill because we are of course hampered by the current provision of our existing passport law with regards to personal appearance.
Okay, thank you. So, with the permission of Senator Tolentino, just one question lang more. Out of curiosity, Director Gambol, can you hear us, ma'am? Meron
Yes, sir.
meron
Yes, Chair.
meron daw study na we slipped a few notches down in the list of most powerful passports. Ano ba itong concept na powerful passport, and should we be concerned about that? Should we be competing in that list, or that's just a listing na we can disregard?
Sir, our position is this is something we can disregard because it's something that's put together by other people, by travelers. So medyo it's opinion based po yan eh. And with the pandemic, of course, a lot of the passports were also affected, not just ours, because we have entry bans. So when we have entry bans, the other countries will also have entry bans against us. So we expect po talaga that yan pong mga passport ratings, it's not just one po. There's quite a few of them. The passport
Okay.
rating will be affected po.
As if naman pwede kang mamili ng more powerful passport, ano? Kasi you're stuck with your nation's passport.
That's correct. If I remember correctly, the most powerful passport in the past was I think a European passport and UAE, but now the UAE passport has gone down because of yung situation po sa kanila, and a lot of countries have stopped accepting travelers from the UAE.
Sige, at least nalaman natin yon yung from the point of view of the DFA. So, Senator Tolentino, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps to add to your last query, the DFA should note of if you're referring to the Henley Passport Index, the strongest passports in Asia are Japan and Singapore. Talagang bumaba yung Philippines. Sino kaya ang sasagot sa akin from the DFA family? Mr. Chairman. Pagod na siguro si Madam Gambol. Perhaps there are other resource persons. I see a lot of names and faces.
Sige,
Okay lang po, Mr. Chair and Senator. Okay lang po.
Ma'am, just a very general question, perhaps related to the first topic regarding the senior citizens. How do the DFA treat passports? Is it a right or is it a privilege?
Sir, the right is there po, but of course, you have to also look at whether the person who wants to use this right is entitled to it. Which is why there are always two things that we look for before we issue a passport. Number one, is the person a Filipino citizen? That's the primary justification for the entitlement. And the second one is the person, the owner of the identity, being presented for issuance of a passport. So if those two things po, sir, come together, then we will issue a passport to that person.
So what you're saying is that if you comply with the requirements, it now is transformed into a right, which is demandable for the government to issue a passport.
Yes, sir.
Tama ba yun?
Tama,
So,
tama po yan, sir.
So nawawala yung discretion ng pamahalaan, hindi na siya privilege kung ganon.
Sir, there are other ano naman po. There are other considerations. Sorry, Mr. Chair, and Senator Tolentino. There are other considerations din po other than for us kasi the main basis for us will always be what the Constitution and primarily the passport law tells us before we can issue any passport to any person. Number one talaga po is the person has to be a Filipino. And we have had many cases. Some of them have stumped us and we have had to do research, especially po yung mga dual citizens. That sometimes that is always a situation that will give us pause, and we need to research whether the action of this other government affects the right of that citizen who became a citizen of a foreign country. But by and large, sir, we are able to determine that. But if not, sir, we ask for the assistance of other agencies, for example, the Bureau of Immigration, the Department of Justice, so that we can be guided and we can make the correct decision on a passport application submitted to us.
More inclined to consider a passport demand as a human right, perhaps the Human Rights Commission is listening. Is it a human right to secure a passport? Lahat pwede. Basta makakomply, Pilipino ka, ikaw yung na-identify doon, you have that birth certificate, etc., etc. Ma'am? Nawala na si Miss Gambol?
Yeah, I'm still here, sir. Sorry po.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry po.
So it's now a human right, so to speak.
Yes, sir. The only thing that will inhibit that right is, of course, if our judicial officials, judicial authorities issue an order against the person that will prevent him or her from being issued a passport. I think that's the only time that we will not issue
Yes.
them a passport.
Yes, but that would involve due process. Now, going to the question of Senator Gatchalian as a follow-up, I've seen instances in other countries, like for instance, when I was still younger, in the Netherlands, they would be issuing passports coming from their post office. In the United States, the passports are also issued by the post office. So, walang mahabang pila, walang problema kasi and then you get your passport through the mail. So that's the US postal system, part of their services, but it's still controlled by the State Department. But the administrative process, the taking of pictures, the compilation of documents required, that's being done by the US Postal Service. What are your thoughts on this? Payag ba kayo na isali na rin natin yung post office natin? Lahat ng post office po, mas marami yung post office sa buong Pilipinas kesa po sa opisina ng Department of Foreign Affairs. Is that
Yes,
a good
yes, sir.
alternative? We involve the post office, baka hindi narinig ni Chairman Pimentel, in other jurisdictions, EU, almost the entire EU nations, lahat sila post office yung ginagamit. US, kahit sa post office, pwede kang kumuha ng passport. So bakit tayo gusto natin centralize? Pipila ka doon sa tapat ng McDonald's sa Makapagal Avenue. Tapos ang haba ng pila naiipon para yung mga kababayan natin sa probinsya mas madali. Di ba? Payag ba kayong ganon?
Mr. Chair and Senator Tolentino, wala pong problema yun sa amin, sir. It's just a matter of coordinating, setting up a system, setting up a procedure. But I don't see it as a problem because we also study what the other countries do when it comes to their passport delivery.
So you're
Passport
aware of the
delivery.
efficiency of the US Postal Service in issuing
sir.
passports?
Yes,
So-
sir. Even other countries, sir. For example, I'm married to a British citizen, so
Yes. EU, sa lahat sa EU, sa European. So, ma'am,
So he
is
just
your
sent his passport back. Opo, back to
yes,
his country through courier delivery po, DHL po. So we sent
yes,
it, and I think after 6 weeks we got back
yes.
both his new passport and his
By
old
mail.
passport that has been canceled. So yes, it is something po na it's a doable process for us. And of course we welcome any possibility of cooperation with other government agencies to further improve po our passport delivery.
Yes. So, ma'am, with the permission of the chairman, can you perhaps submit a position paper on this? Because this is not just a doable alternative, it is a standard practice among all developed nations. Issue passports through the postal service system. Can you do that, ma'am, with the permission of the chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Senator Tolentino, we will do that po.
Another, siguro patapos na rin ako, I noticed that under the proposed measure, I think this is section 12, and then under current practice, and it is recognized that the passport, all passports issued are not owned by the bearers, but are government properties. Tama po ba yun, ma'am?
Yes, sir, that's correct po. That is
So,
in
I
the
have
law.
here my passport in front of me. My passport is here. So if this is owned by the government, I have to take care of this as a government property. Tayo po sa gobyerno, pag meron tayong government-issued property, may sticker pa yon, di ba? And we're accountable for that. Ang pinagtataka ko, ma'am, ang tagal-tagal ko na hong, with the permission of the chair, ang tagal-tagal ko na hong nagka-passport, bata pa ako. Why is it that if this is truly a government property, once a passport is renewed and the previous passport is cancelled, sinusoli pa rin sa akin itong lumang passport na butas-butas. Baka ang isagot niyo, ma'am, dahil may visa ang nakatatak doon, baka magamit pa yung visa. Bakit po pag yung, halimbawa, expired na yung visa, dapat sa inyo na to. Kung government property pa ito, how long will this be a government property? Kaya niyo po ba sagutin yon?
Sir, one of the reasons why we consider the passport as government property, primarily po when it is used overseas. For example, when a person, for example, violates one of the laws of the foreign government and is therefore under custody, and even the passport, we can demand the passport from the host government. Or whenever the passport is held by a foreign government, having that especially placed in the passport itself, then we can demand from those government authorities to return the passport to us, because it is not a personal property of the person they are investigating, or for whatever reason is under their care, but it is because it is the property of the Philippine government, so that when the person can then is now no longer under the purview of this foreign government, we can return his or her passport back to her, and the person can continue his travel or can go back to the Philippines using that passport, or if not, we can issue him a travel document. Pero maganda rin pong point yung sinasabi niyo, but siguro it's also the fact that that document, the travel document, the passport has been under the care of the holder, even though it's supposed to be government property. So which is why we usually just return it. That's still the guidelines that we follow, sir. The only time po na we do not return the passport to the person is when it's misused, kasi it's a violation of the passport law. Or nawala po yung passport, and usually pag ganun po, nire-report po kasi namin sa Interpol. Some lost passports are returned to us, usually if it's lost overseas by government authorities, it's returned to us. We don't return it anymore because it's reported sa Interpol. We just cancel it and we dispose of it. And ano rin po, it's to be honest din po, it's ano rin po yung pag-dispose din ng passport. That's why most likely that has been the idea. And even all other countries do the same. They return the old passport because sometimes when they travel, when they apply for visa, they are asked, have you been issued a previous passport? So if they have the old passport with them, then they can refer to it. And also, if they need to refer to travels in the past, it's still better that they have it, unless, of course, in the discretion or study of the department, it's better for us not to return the passport to the holder and just cancel and dispose of it and inform the holder to apply for a new passport. Otherwise, we will return it to the holder.
Yes. Senator Tol, just an interjection.
Yes,
Under,
yes, sir.
under Section 12 of Senate Bill 2264, the idea there is that a Philippine passport remains property of the government for the duration of its validity. So we made that made that into a legal concept. So meaning to say, after its validity, like expire na, it can now be treated as personal property of the holder of a previously valid passport.
So I stand corrected, Mr. Chairman. So now, because of that rectification, we will be avoiding the situation wherein a passport holder will be having a government property in his possession in his lifetime, and is liable for
While
criminal case before, siguro.
while valid, sir, that passport that the holder has is government property. Upon expiration, it ceases to be government property.
Correct. So I stand corrected in that regard. So it is now very conclusive to say that your passport, my passport here, is just a mere document for entry and safe passage, but this remains, while valid, as a government property. Siguro po dun sa DFA or dun sa kung sino man yung printing contractor ninyo, my old passport is very clear. Ito po yun. Nakalagay po dito, Mr. Chairman, this passport is the property of the Republic of the Philippines. It must be surrendered upon demand by an authorized representative of the Philippine government. It's very clear. Ito po mga bagong passport natin, kung sino man yung inyong printer, wala na pong makita rito. Gold po yung sulat. Madam Gambol, gold. And I have to secure a magnifying glass to read the contents. Ang nakalagay po dito, Mr. Chair, naka-reading glass. Hindi ko na mabasa, Mr. Chairman, kung ano nakalagay. Pero dapat siguro, and it's printed in gold letters. Very small in gold. Wala na akong makita rito. So, kung senior citizen yung magbabasa nito, o kung sino man, hindi na talaga makita. Siguro, once you have the new generation of passports printed, my suggestion, Madam Gambol, ibalik nyo na ito sa dati na maliwaliwanag para naman hindi na kailangan yung magnifying glass na ganito. Kaya nag-unlog po ako kanina, Mr. Chairman, naghanap pa po ako sa opisina ng ganito. Another point, Mr. Chairman, nakalagay po dito sa passport natin, the old passport, and I'm sure the new passport, the bearer, that's me, the passport holder, name in the passport should report or communicate with the nearest Philippine embassy or consulate immediately upon arrival at the port of destination. Mr. Chairman, sa buong buhay ko, hindi kasalanan ko ba hindi ako naka-report kung saan man yung konsulada o embahada? Wala ako siguro nagpupunta kasi paglabas mo sa immigration, sa customs, punta ka sa hotel, kung saan man, hindi ka naman pumupunta sa embassy para mag-report. Nandito na ako ngayon. Ito yung passport ko. I question the utility of this. Ba't kailangan pang ilagay ito? Wala naman nagre-report talaga sa embassy. Natatawa si Senator Gatchalian. Nung nagpunta siya sa Europe, siguro, hindi naman siya nag-report sa Philippine Embassy sa Hungary. So, anong purpose nito? Ba't kailangan pa natin ilagay yun? Madam Gambol.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair and Senator Tolentino. Yes, with yung second point niyo, that's point taken po. It's actually supposed to be for Filipino migrants and OFWs, not necessarily for yung mga ano lang po, tourists or mga temporary travelers. But we will we'll take note of that and maybe rephrase it so that it points to the specific groups of Filipinos who, because we want them to be registered with the embassy or consulate, so we know that they are there, and in case they need assistance from us, we know that they are in that particular part of our jurisdiction. On yung the other point po, Senator Tolentino, yes sir, I also agree with you, which is one of the reasons why we really want to change our e-passport booklet design, because of the yun nga po, medyo the design that was approved, medyo parang mahirap nga daw pong basahin by our seniors, and yung iba sinasabi masyadong madami yung design. So pag yung ibang mga stamps nila hindi na masyadong nababasa ang ating the visa pages of the passport booklet. Yes sir, we'll make sure po na the next one, once we get the approval for the third generation e-passport, mas malinaw po siya at mas madali po siyang basahin. Palalakihin din po namin yung mga page numbers and all of the other text that should be easily readable by the passport holder and by the immigration officials that will be looking through the Philippine passport.
Senator Tolentino? So we cannot hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. One last question, Mr. Chairman. I've been taking too much of the committee's time. There is a provision that multiple passports would not be allowed. Current practice among PhilAms would indicate that they have an American passport as well as a Filipino passport. So how do you see that, Madam Gambol? Talagang dalawa yung passport nila. Minakasabay na ako sa airport nung pabalik, ang inilabas American passport, pero nung nandun sa nag-check-in sa Delta Airlines, Filipino passport yung hawak. So merong ganun pong sitwasyon. How do you handle this twist, Madam Gambol?
Sir, the provision Mr. Chair and Senator Tolentino, the provision po under the current law with regards to the offense of carrying multiple passports refers to Philippine passports lang po. It does not refer to a Philippine passport and any other foreign passport that the person is entitled to due to his
pag dalawang Philippine passports, bawal.
Basta kung pareho pong valid at the same time po, bawal po yon.
Paano to, ma'am? Philippine passport ko, regular, Philippine passport, diplomatic, pareho din
Except po yan, sir. We're talking about regular passports lang po.
The same regular, the same category.
Like myself po, I have a diplomatic passport and a regular passport.
So you're the first violator, ma'am. You're the first violator. I'm just the second.
The law is for
Sentol, the law allows it. The law
allows it. Thank you. They just want to be clarified. Sir, ang dami ko pang questions, but I'll give the other resource persons a chance to make their presentations. Worried lang po ako dito sa Henley Passport Index. That should not be taken lightly by the DFA. It is indicative not just of the survey done, but the power of our passport. Because the passport is the badge of citizenship, and you should be proud of that. Ngayon, kung downgraded yung passport natin, medyo downgraded yung pagtanggap sa atin ng host country. Maraming salamat for the time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And if you have additional questions, we can probably submit in writing to the DFA and await their written response also. Then yes, Senator Win Gatchalian.
Chairman, naalala ko lang, no, because Senator Tolentino raised this. I remember attending this pre-COVID, this event, and there's this I think organization or company organizing some form of parang marketing, no? Wherein you can invest in a particular country and you get a passport. In fact, they presented multiple countries and multiple countries will have different requirements. No, but basically the basic premise there is you invest X amount in that particular country and you get a passport. And there's no limit, no, because I think other countries allow multiple passports. So there's nothing wrong with that, Ma'am Gambol. Any Filipino can, let's say, invest in country A, get a passport, invest in country B, get a passport. So one Filipino can have multiple passports in multiple countries.
Sir, if you're talking about how it affects yung right po niya to a Philippine passport, we need to look at whether the foreign citizenship was availed of through a form of naturalization po. So if the person in the course of receiving the foreign citizenship through that economic citizenship po, marami nga po yung mga ganyang klaseng programs. But if it is a form of naturalization, then the person will have to undergo the dual citizenship procedure before he can have his right again to the Philippine passport.
But obviously, Ma'am Gambon, this is economic, no? Because the only requirement is to invest X amount of investment. So how's that? No, how's that? How does that work? Is it legal and is that accepted in our laws?
I'm not sure, sir. I don't think we have an economic program that is similar to what they have overseas. We have the what do you call this, the retirement programs, but I do not think it entails a grant of citizenship.
No, not in the Philippines, Ma'am Gambol, but Filipino investing in another country. Is that there's nothing illegal to that? For example, I'm a Filipino and then
I don't, yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Chair and Senator Gatchalian. I don't know of any law that prevents a Filipino from doing so. Again, if the only question there is with regards to his entitlement to a Philippine passport and all that entails when one has Philippine citizenship, is whether or not that foreign citizenship was granted as an act of naturalization on the part of the foreign government. That's always the main thing that we need to resolve first, sir, when we accept passport applications from dual citizens.
well, I just want to I brought that up, no, because I've attended that event. In fact, I wasn't sure why they invited me, no, because no way I will take another citizenship. But it was just out of curiosity that I asked because they're obviously they're luring businessmen and people who can afford to invest outside just to flag DFA about that type of activities during the pre-pandemic.
Thank you, Senator Win. I would just like to emphasize that the criminal act of possession of multiple passports would refer to Philippine passports. Yun po yun. Yun yung kinicriminalize po natin. Dapat isa lang yung valid Philippine passport mo. But there are recognized exceptions. Siyempre, you can have regular and diplomatic, you can have regular and official, mga ganun. Tapos siguro, kung nawala mo, and then nag-affidavit ka, here comes a replacement, and then you found the old, siguro, ano na yan, mga justifiable reasons na yan. At one point in time, you had two valid, but you will surrender to comply with the spirit of the law, you surrender the other one. Parang ganon, basta yun ang ano natin. Pero out of curiosity, from the point raised by Senator Gatchalian, if the DFA or Ms. Gambol can inform us, what is the general rule now if a Filipino acquires foreign citizenship, is the general rule that the Filipino citizenship is forfeited? Kasi noong unang panahon, nasa law school ako, yun yung general rule eh. Pero ano na ang general rule ngayon?
Sir, it's still the same po. Unless the Filipino presents documentation that states the grant of citizenship was not done as an act of naturalization, as I mentioned earlier. Marami po kasi, sir, ano yan, permutations.
Okay,
Yung grant ng
permutations.
citizenship, yeah.
Okay.
So, kailangan po talaga, there should be documentary evidence submitted on the part of the Filipino passport applicant so that
Okay.
we are convinced na talagang entitled pa rin siya to a Philippine passport.
Okay, sige. So yung general rule natin was formed during the days na naturalization process pa yung invented way. Ngayon marami nang na-invent na shortcut yung ibang bansa. So siguro it's also time for us to make our law catch up with this recent developments in other countries. Sige, ganun na lang gawin natin. So anybody else who wants to comment on House Bill 8513 and Senate Bill 2264, especially on the on the contents, on the terms, on the wording, so we can start our tidying up of the bills so we can finalize them. Senator Marcos is raising her hand. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just very quickly, what's the situation normally addressed by the issuance of an emergency passport? Kadalasan ano yung dahilan? Just from data and experience.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. This what we are trying to address, ma'am, are the situations where Filipino travelers go overseas. Tapos, in the course of their travel, hindi pa kompleto yung travel nila, nawala nila yung passport. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the thing that we can issue overseas is a travel document certificate. And the travel document certificate is only valid for 30 days and it's only good for direct one-way travel back to the Philippines. And you cannot use it to travel to another territory. So kung meron pa pong ibang pupuntahan yung ating kababayan, hindi na po niya magagawa yon. So what happens is that the person just goes back to the Philippines, curtails yung kanyang travel. So marami po kaming mga cases na yung ating pong mga kababayan traveling on business, traveling to attend the conference, even pong even our own delegates to official conferences overseas, yung mga foreign government sponsored conferences na nawala ng passport, pag pupunta sila doon, let's say diplomatic or official passport, uuwi sila sa atin, naka-official passport lang sila. I mean, but that's okay for them because wala na silang pupuntahan. But how about also those people who are resident overseas, but when they travel to another country and lose their passport, ganun din po. There is no other document that we can issue to them other than the travel document. And that means they will have to go back to the Philippines before they can go back to their country of residence.
Yes, that's right. That's why, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering what is the DFA's recommendation with regards to HB 8513 and SBN 2264? Because Ms. Gamble is indicating that an emergency passport, or more accurately, an travel document certificate is inadequate in certain cases. So are you recommending that we expand further from an emergency passport, as it were, or this one-way ticket back to Manila within 30 days? Yes, Ms. Gamble, please, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Madam Senator, we would like to request the committee to pass the recommendation with regards to the inclusion of an additional type of passport, the emergency passport, as well as the issuance of another type of travel document, the emergency travel document. We have actually sent a letter to the chair dated July 5, 2021, that we have reformulated Section 14 of Senate Bill 2264 so that we will differentiate the issuance of the emergency passport from the issuance of the emergency travel document. And we have suggested that we do not specify how and to whom these documents are to be issued to. The Secretary of Foreign Affairs will be the one to determine the specifications, the persons, eligible persons, as well as the requirements for their issuance. But for the emergency passport, definitely we would like it to be included as one of the different types of passports issued by the Philippine government for the purpose of issuing a temporary travel document to our citizens who lose their passports while they are traveling overseas so that they may continue their travels and then be able to go back to the Philippines.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. May I manifest my support for the myriad emergency documents recommended by the DFA, having myself utilized them several times in the past. Thank you.
So thank you for that. We will go over the July 5 communication that you mentioned, Director Gamble, modifying or amending Section 14 of SB 2264. Tingnan lang natin. But siguro, meron naman siguro mga parameters din doon. Hindi full discretion to the Secretary to issue a certain kind of passport. Lagyan pa rin natin ng guidelines. We will make sure na may guidelines or may standards doon. Okay, so I can see the presence of other agencies here, CHR, DOJ, DSWD, even Labor is here. Ano to? What is ILAB? It's here. So, do you want to make a presentation on the bills or just to submit your position papers on the said bills, the Senate bill and the House bill? Or who wants to have the floor? I will give you the chance now. DOLE, you're here, sir. Sino ba ito? Si Mr. Bautista, you want to make a manifestation or a presentation? DOLE, yes.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and to the member of this committee. The Department of Labor and Employment will submit our position paper regarding the proposed Senate bills.
Thank you, sir. Siguro sa main idea of the bills, wala naman yata tayong contest na doon, or disagreement doon. So, doon na tayo, if the chair could request a commentary on the on the per section, on the details in the bill. I noticed myself some ambiguous sections or duplication. So yun, if some of you also notice this, please point them out. So we will be aware of these facts. So we can improve the bill. Yun po ang gusto nating gawin. Oh, anybody else? Sino pa po? Justice is here. Justice, Department of Justice, can you help us? Sino? Yes. Sino to si Justice natin? Yes. Carla, yes.
Afternoon.
Carla?
Yes, Mr. Chair, good afternoon, and to the members of the committee. On the part of the Department of Justice, I would like to manifest that we have submitted our position paper in the proposed bill in the House, and we undertake to do the same for the Senate bills, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. No? So, we will improve. We will harmonize the two bills. Tapos, in the process, also improve na. Kung may nakita tayong mga wording that we need to clarify. About CHR. CHR, you want to say something?
Good afternoon po, Mr. Chair. On behalf of
Attorney Asalan, yes, go ahead.
yes po, Mr. Chair, on behalf po of the Commission on Human Rights,
They got cut off. Oh, sige. We shall allow CHR to reconnect. May question lang ako sa DFA. Yung mga conventions, Director Gambol, you mentioned some two conventions earlier. Is the Philippines party to those two conventions?
Yes, sir. I think I referred to the Convention on Statelessness and the Convention on the Status of Refugees.
So
Yes, we are signatories po. We are parties. We are a party to both conventions.
No, signatories concurred in by the Senate na po yan?
Yes, sir. These are ano na po, matagal na pong matagal na pong mga conventions po ito. They were
Okay.
passed they were in from 1950s pa po.
Okay. Thank you very much. So is CHR back online? Wala. Okay. Sige. Yung iba naman, no? Kung gusto lang, DSWD.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you have comments on the two passport bills, Ma'am Ilagan?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I already gave a comment for the Senate version, but this time for the House bills, we have some recommendations, Mr. Chair. And for the House bills, the DSWD does not agree with the replacement of birth certificate of children with mere baptismal certificate as a document, because this will be subjected to fraud and trafficking of children by unscrupulous individuals or organizations or sects. Also, we would like to have some changes on House Bill 4288, the requirements for the issuance of a passport. On letter B, we would like a definition of the term election certificate, and to adopt the order of importance by indicating first the general requirements for the issuance of passport, followed by the additional requirements for naturalized citizens, minors, among others. And then on letter G, there should be no distinction between a legally adopted child and a biological child. And we would like, as I mentioned earlier, also a provision validating that the bearer of the passport, this would be for senior citizens, is still alive. And other comments to include in the substitute bill sections on short title, declaration of policy, definition of terms, implementing rules and regulations, and to include in the Inter-Country Adoption Board, Philippine Statistics Authority, and two accredited non-government organizations in the formulation of the IRR. Mr. Chair, we already submitted our position paper, so I suppose this can be reviewed for better appreciation of what we are proposing, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, DSWD, for your active participation. We will surely consider your points. Ma'am Gambol, are you still online?
Yes, sir.
I have a document here with me which states that if 2/3 of the Senate will concur to the President's ratification, we will be the first Southeast Asian country to accede to the 1961 Convention. So, meaning to say, we have not yet constitutionally approved this 1961 Convention. Paki-check nyo na lang po who can
Yes, sir.
authoritatively tell us sa DFA.
Yes, sir. We will check, sir. But as far as I remember, sir, we had already signed up to the 1951 convention and the 1954 convention. I think the 1961, sir, is an amendment to one of those. And maybe we can ask UNHCR because they also sent us a copy of their position papers. And they cited these particular conventions also.
So meaning to say there are three, because we were talking about two conventions, there are actually three conventions involved. So we will just clarify this siguro through a written communication, COMSEC. Ganun na lang, what are the three conventions on statelessness involved in the topic of passports, and then which of the three are fully ratified and which are not yet. Okay, so ano you, Comsec, I cannot hear you.
Sir, the pending one po is the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. We're
So
not yet a party to that.
not yet a party to that, and we are party to the two conventions.
1951 and 1954.
Okay, what are the titles of these conventions?
Hindi ko lang po memorize ngayon, sir.
Sige,
And
research.
we have, sir, the UNCHR.
Yes, UNCHR is here to lecture us on these conventions. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chair, our esteemed members from the Senate, and our experts from the different agencies and organizations. I am Ariel Gonzalez po from the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. So our work po revolves around refugees, asylum seekers, stateless persons, and populations at risk of statelessness in the Philippines. And as mentioned po by our colleagues from DFA and our committee secretary, the Philippines is a state party to two out of the three mentioned conventions. So for the 1951 convention relating to the status of refugees and its 1967 protocol, this was ratified by the Philippines on July 22, 1981. And to date, we are only the third. We are three out of the all the 146 state parties in the world in ASEAN that have ratified to this. So the other countries are Cambodia and Timor-Leste. On the other hand po, for statelessness, there are two conventions on statelessness. One is the 1954 Convention relating to the status of stateless persons. So this, sir, is the twin convention of the 1951 Refugee Convention. And similar to its twin counterpart, this outlines the rights of stateless persons similar to refugees. And this includes po the right to travel documents and the right to documentation, as we have submitted in our position paper. To date, the Philippines is the only state party in ASEAN in terms of accession to the 1954 Statelessness Convention. The third one po is the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. This, sir, is different from the 1954 Statelessness Convention in the sense that it provides a menu of options for states to prevent and reduce statelessness. So one aspect, sir, of that 1961 Convention is ensuring that foundlings who are found in the territory of the contracting state are also considered as nationals of that territory. So I believe, sir, the Senate and the House of Representatives have been working arduously also on the foundling bills on this. But just to flag din po, while we are yet to accede to the 1961 Convention, based on our correspondence as well with the Department of Foreign Affairs, Office of Treaties and Legal Affairs, as well as the Office of the President, it is currently being reviewed po for the Office of the President, specifically its Office of the Deputy Executive Secretary for General Administration po, headed by Mr. MacJill Bryant Fernandez. Sir, if I may also take this opportunity also to share that actually even before the 1954 Statelessness Convention was acceded to, the Philippines has already included in the Passport Act, the antiquated Passport Act, the consideration of refugees and stateless persons, which is very much lauded, not just in the ASEAN region, but also globally. So it shows the willingness and humanitarian tradition of the Philippines to open its arms and provide protection and documentation, especially for refugees and stateless persons. We would also like to note that in terms of two global fora po, no? The Global Refugee Forum and the High-Level Segment on Statelessness, which was held in 2019, both in Geneva, the Philippines there committed to enhance its policy, legal, and operational framework and also accede to the 1961 Convention. So this effort po of this arduous work of the Senate would very much contribute to and align with those pledges.
Mr. Chair, if you will allow me, I would also like to manifest our proposed comments and inputs for the consideration of the body. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to Thank you, Mr. Chair. We only have 6 comments po. The first is on the definition of terms. It provides biographic data in alignment with our other comment also on the documentary requirements for a passport to include the certificate of founding. So this is in consideration po of instances where foundlings, who are one of the at-risk populations in the Philippines identified by the state actually, who are not adopted po and have reached the age of majority and cannot apply for such passports because they only have that certificate of foundling, unlike those po that are adopted who have their own birth certificate. Another po is on Section 3, again on the definition of terms. As refugees and stateless persons have been mentioned, we would like to request that in line with the convention definitions, that this be incorporated as well. On Section 5 on the requirements, as mentioned earlier, we would like to request for the consideration of the certificate of foundling as one of the documentary evidences, but also noting that Senate Bill 2233 and House Bill 7679, approved on third reading, the House version, are also underway in terms of issuing birth certificates on a non-discriminatory basis with other children versus foundlings. Another, sir, is on the valid and sufficient proof of identity. This is more of a clarificatory question with regard to how this relates to the PhilID, as the PhilID under RA 11055 is envisioned to serve as a primary documentary evidence for the transaction with government services, among others. Last two, sir, on the passport databases in Section 9, we would like to request for the inclusion of the broad phrasing in coordination with relevant agencies. Just to share, sir, there is this database management group for refugees, asylum seekers, and stateless persons, of which UNHCR is the secretariat and is the one doing the primary coordination. Members of this group include the Department of Justice, particularly its Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Unit, its Department of Foreign Affairs, its Bureau of Immigration, and our project partner, the Community and Family Services International. So they meet po usually quarterly, and this is more on data harmonization, data protection, data sharing, and also there are endeavors also between the Department of Justice and the DFA to pursue data sharing agreements. So perhaps the Senate committee might wish to consider this as well to harmonize efforts. On the last comment, sir, on Section 14, Mr. Chair, we would like to kindly recommend that the convention travel document be revised in terms of its provision. In terms of recognition by the Department of Justice, specifically its Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Unit, or the RSPPU, or the appropriate government agency, as I believe the DOJ is also planning to institutionalize their unit into an office through a separate bill. And we would also like to reword it in terms of ensuring that both refugees and stateless persons are allowed to be permanent residents, because based on immigration laws, as long as they have this alien certificate, alien recognition certificate, or the ACR, and this other documentation, the certificate of recognition by the DOJ as a refugee or stateless persons, they are allowed to legally stay in the Philippines. That is the answer, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for this opportunity to participate in the discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez of the UNHCR. Senator Tol sent me a question, but since Senator Win is not here, I will not read it in the meantime. But for DFA, meron po tayong question dito. DFA, are you still present? For the 5 off-site mall locations, where can the public get appointments?
Sir, through our
Yeah.
ano po, Mr. Chair. It's through our passport appointment website po, passport.gov.ph.
Okay, passport.gov.ph.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Meron meron kayong andiyan pa naman si Director Gambol, no? You can hear us, Director Gambol?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Meron daw kayong passport on wheels sa Bel Air Village. Tama po ba 'yon?
Tapos na po, sir. I think we had that about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, kasi may maraming pictures sa Facebook. Ang tanong, yung benefits ba noon, hindi ba natin ma-spread out? Kasi maraming nagrereklamo na naghihirap sila to get a passport appointment, and then in other places, like which is an exclusive subdivision, it is made so convenient for them. For those outside of the exclusive subdivision, hirap na hirap sila to get an appointment. So how do we equalize the opportunities, ma'am? I think we lost her.
Mr. Chair,
Did
we
you
do
hear?
accept the request po from Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I heard you, sir.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yun pong PAW, sir, that's open not just to private subdivisions. It's also open to LGUs, barangays, to private companies and schools. Unfortunately, sir, meron po kasi kaming pending na mga 40 plus PAW requests from 2020, and we're trying to prioritize them since meron nga po silang pending request sa amin, and we've been telling those who are requesting this year na we will try our best to accommodate them, but yun nga lang po, ang priority po namin are those from last year. At the same time po, limited din po ang budget namin because of the fact that we have established the 5 temporary offsite po namin locations, and we're expanding that to a total of most likely mga 15 po, sir. So definitely we will be spreading out the benefit of our temporary offsite passport service locations. We will roll out the one for Cebu and for Davao, most likely, sir, by August, and then for the additional and for the others
Location.
about same month po, and in September po.
Sige ma'am, at least na-announce ninyo sa hearing natin. Ano tawag nyo? Temporary off-site passport locations.
Passport service locations po.
Passport service locations. Okay. Spread this out, and then please announce them para po fully avail po yung ating mga kababayan.
Yes, Mr. Chair, si Undersecretary Dodo Dulay po, he had a press con on this last Monday.
Mag-press con ulit para ulit.
I will mention po to Undersecretary Dulay.
Anyway, Undersecretary Dulay is a radio personality o media personality, so gamitin na niya yung yung platform niya.
Yes, sir. I will convey po to the Undersecretary.
Thank you, Director. Paki na lang, paki. And I talked to him last night. We were able to see each other last night. Sabi nga niya, the passport bills are urgently requested by the department. So kikilusan na po namin ito ng mabilis. Comsec, meron tayo sa chat natin, chat room, important inputs from Ms. Gonzalez of the UNHCR. Paki-download na lang, and please make this part of the records of the committee, explaining the 1951 Convention, the 1954 Convention, and the 1961 Convention. Very, very helpful information. So, anybody else? Sino ba kanina? DOJ, no? Nawala DOJ kanina? DOJ, are you back? Are you back, DOJ? State Council?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, State Council Carla Kalugay. Yes, you have the floor, ma'am.
I already made a manifestation, sir, that we will just submit our position paper.
CHR pala yun, sir. CHR.
Sorry, ma'am, na senior moment lang po ako.
It's okay, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And then ang CHR yata, ganun din ang sabi niya. Nag-send siya ng they lost the internet connection, they will just submit an official position paper on the proposed measure. Okay, so Labor, if there's nothing else from my fellow senators, wala na po
Chair?
tayo. Oh,
I
who is
do
this?
recognize po. From the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, sir.
Yes, oo nga, okay, yes. Please,
Sir.
Mr. Bernardo, yes.
Yes, sir. I am the Legal Affairs Division Chief of the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos. We are currently collating our inputs for the bill. However, we are already giving a heads up that it will be centered on discrimination, not anymore on the issuance of the Hajj passports. And Your Honor, we also want to signal with the committee secretary, because we are the only ones here from the DILG umbrella with the National Youth Commission and the Philippine Commission on Women. Maybe this is also an opportunity to revisit REMO versus DFA, wherein a woman cannot revert to her maiden name without only on her passport. For all of other government mandated all of government mandated documents, a married woman can revert to her maiden name. However, for passports, this is the exception where they cannot revert to the maiden name. I'm not qualified to talk about it, but maybe the committee secretary can also invite the Philippine Commission on Women, our sister commission, in this hearing, sir. Thank you, sir.
But yes, thank you for pointing that out. Maybe we can ask the DFA now why. Why, with the use of technology, how come we cannot allow a married woman who previously used her complete married name and who now wants to revert to the use of her maiden name? Bakit po bawal yun? Ma'am Gambol?
Sir, hindi po namin, sir, we're not disallowing it, but there are certain requirements to follow. A person, a married woman whose marriage has been annulled, or the marriage is no longer subsisting, pwede po siyang mag-revert for as long as na meron po yung documentation, either ito sa a court order or a death certificate on the passing away of the spouse, and then the court order is also annotated into the marriage certificate. Then that's the only time, sir, that we can allow the reversion of a married woman back to the maiden name, because of the fact na one, in the first instance, hindi na po subsisting yung marriage, so na po siya, unmarried na yung status niya. And in the other instance, widow na po yung ating card. So the person can. Minsan nga po, we have also instances where yung pong nag-revert na mga balo, gusto ulit na gamitin yung surname ng asawa nila after some point. Opo. But for reversion, but for reversion without justifiable cause, after na-adapt na po yung kanyang married surname sa passport, hindi po namin, sir, ina-allow yan, and we have the Supreme Court ruling as basis for that.
So that's why the Mr. Bernardo mentioned the Supreme Court. Kasi as I understand the family code, a married woman, although the marriage is still subsisting, can choose to continue with her maiden name. Or let us say initially she adopted the married name, applied for a passport, and a passport was issued. But just a mere change in decision. The marriage is still subsisting. Hindi sila nag-aaway with the husband. The married woman just wants to now use her maiden name in the passport. So now you're telling me that cannot be done, and you're citing a certain case. So the Remo case. So we will have to revisit that case. And if that case is based on a certain provision of law, then we revisit that law. And if the amendment of the law might lead to the amendment of the decision, of the interpretation of the case. Sige, ganun na lang siguro gawin natin. But thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Bernardo.
Mr. Chair, sorry.
Thank you for the explanation, Director Gambol. Yes, Mr. Bernardo, you want the floor? Yes.
Mr. Chair, just to unease the burden for the committee to check. The specific provision in REMO versus Secretary of Foreign Affairs is Section 5D of RA 8932, it is reproduced in the Senate Bill 2264 as Section 5E, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Your Honor and Senators.
Section, Mr. Bernardo, Section 5.
The old law, sir, Mr. Chair, Section 5D RA 8932. It is in Senate. It is reproduced in Senate Bill Section 5E, sir. Albeit in touch in other terms, sir, but generally.
D, 5D, Delta. D.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Delta, Mr. Chair.
Hindi, ito yun yung one way eh. That's the way to using the husband's surname. But I thought we were talking about the reverse.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The reverse is letter E, so that means something still has to happen. To be consistent with the family code, I think we have to rethink and revisit these two provisions and allow the flexibility for a married woman. Diba? Mr. Bernardo, take a look at 5E on page 6 of the bill, of the Senate bill.
Yes, sir.
The reversion to the maiden name cannot be done just because you want to revert.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Something must happen to have dissolved the marriage. Yun eh. So, do you want a relaxation of this rule or not?
Yes, sir.
Yan.
The Philippine Commission on Women actually has a circular that all government documents can be given to married women under their maiden name upon their discretion, upon the married woman's discretion. But now the only exception is the passport, sir.
Okay,
because
so
of that very section.
ganito na lang, instead of rehearing these measures, COMSEC, we just write and approach the Philippine Commission on Women for their position paper on this. Specifically, itong na-mention natin, Section 5DE of our Senate bill. Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Bernardo. You mentioned also discrimination. That's your main concern now. Are you ready to elaborate a little? Ano yung concern ninyo?
Mr. Chair, we're still collating our data, but our data right now is from the Seattle University study, wherein a lot of Muslim citizens are discriminated in the issuance of their passports. However, sir, we're still collating our data, and as soon as possible, we will be giving our possession paper or any suggested amendments on the bill, sir. Mr. Chair.
Sige. Pero yung Hajj natin, yung going to the Hajj, wala nang problema sa travel documents yung ating participants.
Yes, sir.
Given the types of passports and travel documents in the Senate bill, okay yon? It will work?
Mr. Chair, yes. The basis of the Hajj passport before was for Muslim Filipinos who do not have authenticated documents to be able to get their passports to perform Hajj. However, sir, what we did not foresee is that there's a lot of incentive for corruption because of the slots for Indonesia and Malaysia, and they are interested in the Filipino slots because we do not usually fulfill our 8,000 to 9,000 slots for Hajj. That's why in 2016 there was the issuance of Hajj passports were issued to Indonesian nationals. The perpetrators are already prosecuted, Your Honor, and we have decided in the commission that the practice of using Hajj passports is not really conducive to efficient government service. But what we plan to do, sir, is to always remind our constituents that if they are planning to go to Hajj, they should prepare, and we should help them prepare their authenticated documents. That's our focus now, Mr. Chair.
So pag mag-Hajj na, regular passport nang gamit?
Mr. Chair, yes, since 2017.
Regular
Mr. Chair.
Regular passport. Okay, so I saw the ARTA Secretary, Director General Belica here. I requested for you personally, Director General, because we're talking about now procedures, passport application, passport issuance. Oh, is this also under the jurisdiction of your office that you also look at the procedure to make it efficient, as short as possible, and then unnecessarily asking for documents? Kasama po ba ito sa jurisdiction ninyo?
Tama po yun, Mr. Chairman. We actually, sir, last week po, this week po pala, Mr. Chairman, ako po yung nasa DFA, and also last week, personal po akong pumila sa DFA to also renew my passport, to experience the process. I went through the appointment system, Mr. Chair. And one of the more important things na tinitingnan ho namin, Mr. Chair, if I may just share quickly lang, yung kanila pong we were looking at the automation po nila, kung kakayanin po yan, yung kanilang shortening ng period. Ang nakita ho namin is that unlike the other mga offices na kaya hong gawin lahat 100% automated, lalo na doon sa kanilang proseso, sa DFA po kasi, yung renewal po ng mga passports, kinakailangan mag-personal appearance, Mr. Chair. I think yun ang isang kakaiba doon sa kanilang proseso kasi yung biometrics po na ginagawa nila. So, ang consequence po niyan, Mr. Chair, nung nakita ho namin is kinakailangan talaga yung physical space, 30% ang kanilang capacity. So, it was really a bit hard talaga for them to operate at the usual 13,000 a day application. So, ang hinihingi ko talaga namin is magbukas ng additional na mga areas po sa kanila. And I think they did open up this week, Mr. Chair, 5 additional areas which would amount to an additional 5,000 processing a day. Tapos, Mr. Chairman, ang ilan ho siguro sa normally ho na tinatanong namin, yung mga biometrics po ba na yan, na normally rini-require po ng mga agencies, meron din ho kasi ibang mga ahensya na nagpapa-biometrics na rin po sa mga tao. So, katulad ho ng COMELEC, katulad ho ng ibang mga agency, ngayon po DFA, is it even also possible maybe to share it across government agencies? Kasi total one government naman po tayo. So, it has never been done before, Mr. Chair, pero ARTA has already floated that recommendation also to government agencies. So, ganun din po dito, Mr. Chair, maybe doon sa ating national ID sa COMELEC, maybe pwede ho natin tingnan, Mr. Chair, para anytime na kailangan natin ng biometrics, consistent din po na pwede ho silang maghiraman at magbigayan po ng kanilang requirements. In general, Mr. Chair, nung ako po'y bumalik after my processing, bumalik ako this week, I personally went through the process. Mabilis naman, basta makapasok ka na, Mr. Chair. In 1 hour's time, natapos ko yung proseso ko. Pero yung appointment po talaga, ang nagkaroon ho talaga ng problema sila because of the actual number ng tao. And I believe next week, Mr. Chair, meron po kaming mga meetings pa rin po ulit with them for the process improvement, sir.
So, thank you, Director General, for your appearance on very short notice. Pinatawagan talaga kita. But can you instruct your lawyers, your experts to look at Section 5 of the Senate bill? Yun yung requirements for the issuance of a passport. Daanan nyo rin because dadaanan din, of course, ng DFA experts yan on what are relevant for passport issuance. Pero kung pwedeng daanan ninyo on what documents are relevant, generally speaking, for applying for something for a government document. And then, if your experts can look at page 8 of the Senate bill, section 6, the last paragraph, meron pong nakasabi na ganito: the department may require additional documents as may be specified in the rules and regulations promulgated for the implementation of this act. And if you can advise us on the wisdom of having such a paragraph in the law. Kasi baka dyan lumago yung dumami yung ano nakalista konti pero lalago sa dulo. That's why I invited you here talaga, Director General.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may give my quick manifestation, sir. Katulad siguro nung ngayon, sir, na ginagawa po natin dun sa isang process simplification po sa SB Corp, Mr. Chair, dun sa isang hearing po natin. Baka pwede ho yung mga requirements na i-exact po ng DFA could already be taken already automatically from the other government agencies. Kasi ho, minsan, ang problema, Mr. Chair, is kailangan mag-submit pa yung si Juan de la Cruz ng mga information na nai-submit na ho niya sa ibang ahensya. So, Mr. Chair, titingnan din po namin na baka pwedeng viewing na lang ng mga documents from another agency. Bigyan na lang ng access po, sir, ang DFA para makita nila at hindi na ho i-require dun sa nag-a-apply. Tapos, sir, also next week we'll be meeting with the PSA exactly for that reason, sir, kasi yung mga paulit-ulit na birth certificate, marriage certificate, baka pwedeng, Mr. Chair, viewable na lang sa mga government agencies po yung records po ng PSA on this matter. So, sir, we'll give our recommendation, Mr. Chair, if you may give us, sir, 2 days, 3 days, sir, to look at Section 5, sir, page 8, and Section 6, and the additional requirements, sir.
Thank you very much. We're after wording eh. We're after the wording which can capture yung sinabi mo, the ideas, the
Yes, sir.
sharing of the already captured biometrics or the sharing of the already filed documents in
Yes,
the
sir.
possession of a government agency. Ayun po.
Yes, sir.
Ayun, okay, we have to capture that idea. Thank you, Director General.
We'll submit, sir. We'll submit po our position, sir.
You're given the time that you requested. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, Senator Tolentino.
One last question, Mr. Chairman. Nakadalawa pa nga to. Again, for Madam Gambol. Is she still here? Nandito pa ho siya?
Yes, Senator Tolentino, I'm still here.
We heard the chairman a while ago mention that the new law would envision a valid passport as a government property. Perhaps when you do the printing, once this is passed, ilagay na lang po doon that ang pasaporteng ito ay pag-aari ng Republika ng Pilipinas habang ito ay hindi pa nag-expire. So siguro yun ang suggestion ko. Plus, pwede rin sumagot siguro yung DOLE, while valid, and this is a problem of our OFWs, domestic helpers, while valid, the passports in possession of our domestic helpers deployed abroad are being confiscated by their employers. So if that is confiscated, it in effect violates this law, violates the traditional practice of the DFA, recognizing that this is owned by the government. Ano po ba ang pwedeng gawin ng DFA to advise their counterparts? No, we are owners of that. It cannot be confiscated by the employers to protect our domestic helpers. Dole or Madam Gamble can answer that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Tolentino. Yes, sir. We do that. We, aside from doing an information campaign with our constituents within our jurisdiction, particularly in countries where we have more people working as OFWs, as domestic helpers, factory workers, yung mga blue-collar jobs po. We always tell them that their passport is given to them by the government and they are the holders. And if anyone attempts or deprives them of their passport, they are supposed to report it to the consulate or embassy right away, so we can then exert yun pong right namin as the owner of that passport. So with that, we can also make additional recommendations. For example, with DOLE and with POEA, o itong employer na ito has taken the passport of his Filipino domestic helper, we recommend that he be blacklisted and not be allowed to employ Filipino employees henceforth. Especially kung ano po, umalis yung tao, yung kanilang Filipino staff at na-repatriate po ng embassy. So definitely, sir, yes, this is something that we do on a regular basis by our foreign service posts.
So, would you like that to be part of the law? That part of your additional responsibility is to take legal action or actions to protect our OFWs. Kasi yung hinahawakan ng employers, yung passport nila, kaya takot silang umalis, takot silang magsumbong even sa nearest consular offices because they don't have the passport. Can't we do something insofar as engaging your counterparts firsthand? Sa immigration pa lang, sa border control pa lang. So siguro ito yung ating idagdag sa panukalang batas, Madam Gambol.
We will make a recommendation, sir, because right now I cannot think of how we can do that legally, because the foreign government usually recognizes the right of a diplomatic or consular mission under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations.
The right of what?
insofar
The
as
right of what?
the travel documents that we issue.
Yes, but what I'm saying is to make this, to make the rights of, kasi kanina I asked you my first question, is a passport a right or a privilege? Sabi mo, right. And because it is a right, it will have consequences. So what I'm saying is this, itong pinapakita ko lagi kanina pa to. This passport is the property of the Republic of the Philippines. Pwede nating dagdag, while valid, this passport must not be confiscated by private employers and must be surrendered upon demand by an authorized representative of the Philippine government. We can make it explicit here. Para yun palang employer nila, mabasa nila, bawal pala naman natin i-confiscate ito. And then through your exchanges with your counterparts, pwedeng through bilateral communiques, pwedeng ipagbawal talaga po yan, ma'am. Pwede po natin gawin yon.
Yes, sir. Pwede po, sir. And I believe this was also included in the offenses provision, sir, ng Senate bill, illegal
Yes.
withholding of passport.
But that is only applicable to Filipino citizens, not to
Opo, sir.
Saudi Arabian or
We also,
Middle Eastern
sir?
citizens. Yes, one last question before I
Yes,
go, Mr. Chairman. If I'm not mistaken, and the FA can validate this, the Turkish passport law, Turkey, has a provision which states that if a passport will expire beyond the period of a visa stamped on the passport, automatically the passport holder is granted a 60-day extension. Meaning to say, we will do away with the inconvenience of having that visa holder kasi hindi naman sabay yung nakakuha ka ng passport, nakakuha ka rin ng visa, for instance, sa Canada or sa US or what. So we will do away with the that agonizing moment of finding a consular office or thinking of being deprived of entry at the border. So is that also doable here? Because you mentioned the word doable an hour ago. Is that also doable in our passport law if we introduce an amendment that the passport, if it expires earlier than a visa stamp, will be automatically extended for 60 days. It will enable the passport holder to go to the nearest consular office or what. Minsan kasi nalilimutan yan na akala nila nakapasok na sila, yung pala expired na yung passport pero valid pa yung visa. So any thoughts on that, Madam Gambol?
Okay. Sir, under the ICAO po ulit, they do not recommend an issuing state to amend a passport that's already issued. However, in the case of this pandemic, there has been some easing, not officially, but many countries have eased their procedures and have allowed the passports to be extended. Some physically on the document itself, like we do, while others they make a unilateral declaration, but this is still subject to acceptance, sir, of the country where the Filipino will go to. It's not something, sir, that we can really demand from them. It's up to them whether they will accept it or not. So in the situation, sir, that you described, that's one of the situations that the emergency passport will try to address.
From the if correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am,
Yes,
the
sir.
Turkey situation was being done even prior to COVID-19. So if I'm wrong, again, I will stand corrected. Just try to educate this committee with the permission of the chair if this is being done in other countries pre-pandemic. And the idea is to give convenience to the passport holder, the Filipino passport holder. Yun lang po, ma'am. I understand the convention that you're trying to invoke. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I have learned a lot from Madam Gambol.
Sige,
Thank you,
basta
Senator.
if we can think of wording to give more flexibility, pero conceptually, Director Gambol, hindi pwede yon na 10 years na nga yung validity ng passport, may konti lang request na 6 months extension because of a valid visa. Can this be done through a mere stamping of the extension on the passport?
Sir, the stamping, sir, is easy. What
Yes.
I'm trying to say, sir, is whether this will be accepted is another question po.
Correct,
Is
correct.
another
Okay.
matter.
Because if we doubt that it will be accepted, we will not do it kasi nga convenience ang habol natin eh. Convenience
Yes,
of
sir.
the passport holder. Pero kung lalo lang natin siyang papahirapan because of a false expectation, hindi natin gagawin. Oh, yun
Yes,
ang
sir.
rule
That's what we
natin.
say, sir.
Yun ang rule natin sa even paggawa natin ng law, dapat walang false expectation doon. Ang ilalagay natin. Ngayon ganito, last point na lang kasi yung na-raise ni Senator Tolentino, yung may mga notes pala dyan, ano? Important notes sa passport. Okay. Yung mga existing notes at saka yung mga note, do you still also plan to print notes, to put notes on your third generation passports? Meron ba mga notes din yan? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, existing and planned notes, can you share this with the committee so I can disseminate this to the members of the committee for their comments para matulungan naman po din kayo na sa wording, baka maano natin yung wording. We can be economical with the use of the words and be really accurate and straight to the point. Ganon. So, can we do that? Is that possible, ma'am?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will do that, sir.
Paalam nyo na lang kay Secretary, even for the third generation passport, what the important notes that you plan to put there, please share with the committee. Okay, ma'am?
We will do that. We will do that, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much po.
And then dadaanan na namin ni Senator Tolentino yun. Yes, Senator Tolentino.
Yes, sir. Siguro, sir, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, siguro si Dole should also submit a position paper relative to my query kung paano maiwasan yung pag-confiscate ng mga passport ng OFW kung para matulungan din nila yung DFA kasi doon nagiging kawawa po yung ating mga kababayan. Wala na talaga silang boses kasi wala kang papel. Wala kang hawak-hawak na papel. Kinuha ng employer mo, naghihintay ka na lang ng sweldo, talagang aping-api ka ron. Hindi ka makapunta sa embassy, sa consular office kasi tinatakot ka na pag nagsumbong ka, lalo kang hindi ka makakaalis or even threatened na physically. So siguro si Dole dapat mag-submit din ng position paper. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. May I ask Dole, who can commit Dole to give us a position paper?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will submit our position paper together with the concern of Senator Tolentino. we support the proposed inclusion of additional statement that would specify that the employers are not allowed to confiscate the passport. Actually, Mr. Chair, yung present sentence po ng Passport Act natin, we use that specific sentence in our negotiation with Kuwait, and that particular sentence was included in the bilateral agreement. So nakalagay po talaga doon ang specific prohibition for the employer to confiscate the passport of the workers. In the event, sir, that the employer will not comply with that agreement, the POA rules and regulations, particularly our disciplinary action against employers, there is a provision wherein we can disqualify the employers who confiscated the passport of our workers. So we will submit a more specific and statement on that respect, Mr. Chair.
So question na lang to both DFA and DOLE kung sino may alam. Ano? There is no instance that it is a foreign government which confiscates the passports of our OFWs. Walang ganon. It's not foreign governments involved.
Sir, meron din po, sir.
Meron din foreign government.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So okay, and then karamihan siguro it will now be the foreign employer who confiscates or takes hold of the passport of the OFW. Ganun po, di ba? Okay.
Yes, sir. That's the most
That's the most
usual
common
case po.
common situation.
Most common.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, ngayon ang narinig ko kasing sagot ninyo, ang remedy natin is ipa-blacklist si foreign employer para kung magre-request ngayon siya ng OFW to work for his household, bawal na siya. Pero ang tanong ko kasi is in the meantime, nandun pa si OFW natin and then withheld yung passport niya by the employer. Violation na yun ng ating principle. Ang principle natin, that's government property, which should not be taken away from the holder. Kasi kung nangyari sa Pilipinas yun, may kaso na yung taong nagkumuha, except that nasa ibang bansa sila, hindi natin makasuhan. But any assistance that we can provide the OFW once she or he informs us that her passport has been confiscated by her employer, aside from blacklisting, kumikilos ba tayo to tell the employer na that's violation of our laws, pakibalik sa empleyada mo or empleyado mo? Or we can do it directly or we can do it through their own labor department. Dole, meron ba tayong remedy na in the meantime?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Philippine Embassy or Consulate, together with the Philippine Overseas Labor Office, through our labor attaches, in coordination with the relevant agencies in the host country, we are requesting assistance in the event that the worker complains that her passport was confiscated. So mas diretsa pong binibigyan ng tulong ang worker doon para po mabawi yung passport.
Okay, so meron na tayong mga record na successfully natulungan natin, and because the intervention natin, binalik ni employer sa OFW yung passport?
Yes, Mr. Chair, kasi kung meron pong reklamo yung worker, meron pong proseso na kung saan ay pinapatawag din natin ang employer. Siyempre po ito ay sa pamamagitan din ng pakikipag-ugnayan sa ibang ahensya ng gobyerno ng host country. At kung nare-resolve po yung problema, kasama na po doon yung request na maibalik sa kaniyang passport kung ito po ay na-confiscate.
O di, pakisama na rin po yan sa whatever position paper na bigyan nyo kami ng magagandang example with real names and real dates and location. Kasi yan po gusto namin malaman. Yan mga good news din po na yan. Dapat malaman din po namin.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Kasi po yung mga ibang employers naman po kapag sila ay ipatawag yung kanilang atensyon.
Yes.
Dahil nga po meron ng karampatang kaparusahan kung halimbawang gagawin nila ito. Sa takot po nila na makapag-hire na hindi makakuha ulit ng ng manggagawa ay talaga pong sumusunod din naman po nila para maibalik yung passport.
Okay, yan ang gusto ko ring malaman as chairman eh. The effort na exerted ninyo, the system na ginamit ninyo, and the effectiveness ng inyong intervention. Pero for the record, may nasabi si Director Gampon, may bansa na it is the state which confiscates the passport. Pwede pong malaman anong mga bansa 'yon?
Sir, the one case that I remember, I think, is either New Zealand or Australia. Ang case naman po na ito is because the person, the Filipino, is required to stand as a witness to a particular case. So what they did is that they held on to the passport of the person, so he will not leave. So
Okay.
our embassy made representations and told the government that you cannot do that. Give us back the passport because that is our property. And you can you can command the person to stay and become a witness without necessarily holding on to his passport. Yun sir, yung sinabi
So,
namin. We say na we can issue the person a travel document and he can still leave.
So na-resolve naman yung incident na 'yon.
Yes sir, na-resolve naman po. Parang we just reminded them about yung obligations din po nila sa Vienna Convention.
Okay, so yun pala, mabuti na explain nyo. We are aware of an incident but not as a policy. Okay, so
Yes,
klaro.
policy yan, sir.
Not as a policy, just an incident. Okay, so Senator Tolentino, pwede na tayong magano? I think, pero anybody else? Sige, kasi to give ComSec, what ComSec?
The Philippine Statistics Authority would like to say something po.
Okay, PSA, who is representing PSA? Hindi ko siya kita eh. Wala rito. ComSec, sino si PSA? Sino sa PSA?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and the members of the committee. This is Attorney May and Karina Igawiran from Legal Service po. We would like to submit also our input. Yes po.
Yes, go ahead.
Also, Mr. Chair. Okay, and first and foremost, Mr. Chair, we propose that the Philippine ID pursuant to Republic Act number 11055 should be added as a sufficient proof of identity in applying for passport. This is expressly enshrined in Republic Act number 11055, to wit, Section 13. The PhilID shall be honored and accepted subject to authentication in all transactions requiring proof or verification of citizens or resident aliens' identity, such as but not limited to letter C, application for passports. Then second, Mr. Chair, we agree with the contention of the DSWD while ago that the proposal that a baptismal certificate should not be used as a replacement of the COLB or COF as a requirement in the application for a passport. Why is this so, Mr. Chair? Because this defeats the very purpose of, the very goal of the PSA, that each and every Filipino be registered and be issued a COLB. And Mr. Chair, there was a point raised while ago also with respect to the reversion of the use of maiden name. It is our humble submission that in case of legal separation, that would not be legally possible since it is contrary to Article 372 of the new Civil Code, wherein it states that even legal separation has been granted, the wife shall continue using her name and surname employed before the legal separation. Likewise, it was also held by the Supreme Court in several cases, Mr. Chair, that a woman's marriage status is not affected by a decree of legal separation, there being no severance of the vinculum. Fourth, Mr. Chair, that we would like to raise is with respect to the certificate of founding, Mr. Chair. There is, in the provision, Mr. Chair, it was stated there that it should be authenticated by the DSWD, if I recall it right. But in that case, Mr. Chair, it is our submission that the certificate of founding or founding certificate is one of the registrable civil registry documents. this document is neither being registered nor issued by the DSWD. Instead, it is registered before the LCRO where the child was found, and then this will be subsequently forwarded to the PSA for proper archiving. Also, this document is the official birth record of a deserted or abandoned child whose parents, guardian, or relatives are unknown, or a child committed in an orphanage or charitable or similar institution with unknown facts of birth or parentage. So this must be treated at par with as to the validity and as a proof of identity. This will be treated as at par with the birth record of a certain person. Also, Mr. Chair, in addition thereto, we would like to emphasize also the Republic Act number 11222 or the 11222 or the Simulated Birth Certification Act, which is already implemented and has the legal effect of adoption. We suggest, Mr. Chair and the members of the committee, that this law should also be incorporated in the subject provision. That would be all, Mr. Chair. I know, Mr. Chair. If I may also, Mr. Chair, there are also a provision with respect to discrepancy. It is the provision. It states therein that in case of discrepancy, the applicant's name in the birth certificate shall prevail over that appearing in any public or private document, provided, however, that by operation of law or through court order, the applicant is permitted to use a name other than what is officially recorded in the PSA or LCRO. Mr. Chair, we would like to clarify that although a proper administrative petition and or court decree for change or correction of first name, middle name, or surname is present, the proper marginal annotation thereof in his Colby must first be undertaken before he can legally use such new or corrected first name, middle name, or surname. So, Mr. Chair, in effect, there should be marginal annotations in the PSA issued Colby before he can use such new or corrected first name, middle name, or surname. Also, Mr. Chair, we would like also to point out a certain provision wherein if the applicant is an adopted person, he must submit an original birth certificate. Mr. Chair and the members of the committee, this is contrary to the role and confidentiality of the proceedings and records of adoption. If we are going to allow the release of the sealed original birth certificate of the adopted person, as pronounced under Administrative Order Number 1, Rule 56 specifically, which states that all records, books, and papers relating to the adoption shall be kept strictly confidential. I believe that would be all, Mr. Chair and the members of the committee. Thank you.
Will you be submitting a written position paper, please?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
please.
Chair, we will submit our position paper with respect to this.
Yes,
Thank
please,
you,
kasi
Mr. Chair.
maraming topics yun, and maybe may controversial statements ka rin doon na the chair does not really fully agree, but maybe I'll just go over your written position paper. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Panyera. And anybody else? Okay, so this being the case, I think we are ready now to terminate. No, I think we have sufficiently discussed the two bills, the House and the Senate bill 2264. So this is what we're going to do. We will form a technical working group, and hopefully it will only take one or maximum two meetings of the TWG to clean up the language, streamline the processes, and capture the additional concepts that were suggested today. So in short, harmonize the House and the Senate bills and improve on the same. Yun ang ating mission ng technical working group natin. So, the committee secretary will communicate with the agencies and maybe some NGOs we can invite to participate in the technical working group. Okay, but
Yes.
okay, but all of you are welcome to volunteer And for those who want to submit their position papers, please do so at the soonest possible time. Okay, sandali. Basahin ko lang itong POEA. May ano. Okay, so the POEA representative is pointing out to us the penalty for large-scale or syndicated illegal recruitment. So we will take this into consideration. So anything else? Kung ganon, okay. So okay, if that's the case, the chair thanks my colleagues who helped me during this afternoon session, and all of our resource persons in the government, in the international organizations, in the private sector for helping us. Thank you. And the committee secretary and the Senate staff who are doing a wonderful job in helping us shepherd these two bills. So that's it. So at the decision of the committee, the disposition of the measures is that we will form a technical working group to harmonize House Bill number 8513 and Senate Bill number 2264, come up with a version to be reported to the plenary and to be hopefully passed at the soonest possible time. Everyone is invited to help us during the technical working group. So, okay, if there's no comment, no objection, the chair hereby terminates our hearing for this afternoon, and thanks everyone. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
bye-bye. Yusek, thank you again. Thank you,
Thank you po.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you po.
Salamat po sa lahat.